Welcome back. We're now going to talk to Dr. Roger Boyd about the South Lawrence Trafficway and its impact on the Baker Wetlands. All right, thank you for joining me, Dr. Boyd. Now, I know recently the Federal Highway Administration endorsed the 32nd Street decision with the South Lawrence Trafficway. I was wondering if you could explain that a little bit to me.
Well, the Federal Highway Administration has been looking at two different routes. One route in the Baker Wetlands would cross that, and the other one would go south of the Wakarusa River. So the other one is called 42nd Street.
Okay, and the Baker Wetlands would then be intersected a little bit or have a little bit of this road going through them. What kind of impact would that have on them?
Well, it would be at the very far north end of our property, and it would impact about 56 acres.
Of those 56, I know in 1968 the wetlands began, and we were given 573 acres. If we lose those 60 acres, what kind of, how are we going to be recuperated for those?
Well, it's called a mitigation plan, and it's primarily because anytime a federal project fills wetlands, they must be able to somehow mitigate for that loss of wetlands. And so in our case, we would gain about 300 acres. Probably around 250 of those acres could be restored to wetlands. So we'll receive funding from KDOT to do a number of different things. One is to restore that area to wetlands, to purchase equipment to be able to do that, as well as maintain the rest of the wetlands. We'll receive funding to rebuild the boardwalk and build various different trails, to improve access to other parts of the wetlands, to build a visitor center, and we'll also be receiving money to establish an endowment which will actually pay for personnel and management of the wetlands in perpetuity.
Oh, okay. And you said a visitor center. What would that encompass?
It's a 10,000 square feet
Okay.
size building that we're planning on, and it would basically be oriented towards school children coming out there, but we will also have a research lab in it for our own students to do research there. And we would expect to have that open most days of the week, and probably would be able to put 1,000 kids a week through that center to learn about wetlands and why they're important to protect and to restore and so on.
Okay, and what kind of research do your students do? I know you take students out to the wetlands often now. What's the benefit of Baker having wetlands and being able to conduct research out there?
Well, wetlands are fairly unique in Kansas. There are not very many of them. We're the only school in Kansas that has natural wetlands in any close proximity. KU does use our wetlands to some extent, and Haskell also uses our wetlands. So the advantage is that it's a unique habitat that we can study. Most of the studies that we carry out now are basically going out observing, monitoring plant densities, animal densities, and so on. We have not had the ability to do water chemistry and a few other things because of the inconvenience of being a distance from our campus. So having the visitor center would allow us to take samples into the lab and analyze them right there.
Okay, so that would be a bigger, much better opportunity for research for you guys.
Mm-hmm.
And this has been going on, the South Lawrence Trafficway issue has been going on since 1985, 22 years now. What's made the issue so entirely complicated that it's taken 22 years of negotiation and meetings and everything to finally arrive at a potential plan?
Well, the whole route was originally going to be 14 miles on the south side of Lawrence. And so the decision was made in the mid-90s to proceed, and the western leg is what it's called, the 9 miles from Highway 59 around west and north to I-70 were completed in 96. But since that time, there's been quite a bit of controversy about where to put the trafficway to the east, whether it crosses Haskell's property, Baker's property, goes south of the river. And so that's what a lot of the argument is about. The road was stopped in court in year 2000, and so KDOT came up with a different plan of putting it on Baker's property.
Okay.
And since we own the property, it is our right to be able to say what we can do with it.
Okay, and as Baker's property, you said it would be cutting down about 60 acres of the wetlands, but you'll be recuperating in the end about 250 more, so this will put us at about 750 acres. Are you satisfied with this mitigation that Baker can now have more opportunities with losing a little bit? Is this to your satisfaction?
Yeah, very much so, because it's not just about the increased amounts of wetlands, but the two roads on both sides of us, Louisiana and Haskell, would eventually become four-lane roads because of development south of the river. And the mitigation actually moves those out, Louisiana a half mile to the west and Haskell a quarter of a mile to the east. So we actually have a buffer on both sides of what we have today.
Okay.
And without that buffer, we would have basically four-lane roads on three sides of the property and make it much noisier, much more difficult access, and would have a much greater mortality on the animals that live there.
Okay, so this is kind of ensuring it for the future that it can remain a little more removed from civilization.
Yes, very much so.
Okay, well great. Thank you very much for joining us this evening.
Glad to be here.